Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Did we come here to learn lessons? If so, I'd like to know who decides on the lessons we need to learn. And how do we know if we're learning them? Mission Evolution Radio TV show is coming to you around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. With us this hour to delve into life lessons, karma, and messages from the other side is June Edward. June is an award-winning author of 4 books. Her latest, All's Fair in Love and Karma. June has been a psychic since childhood. Later in life, June found out that she was a psychic medium. June passed to the other side when she was 27 years old and came back by choice. Her website, juneedward.com. June, thank you so much for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So your bio states you've been a psychic from a young age. When did you first discover your gift?
So I guess I don't know that I discovered it at that point, but it was the first time that anything ever really happened to me. I was about 3 years old, and I remember hearing someone call my name. And I got out of bed thinking it was my parents and went in to their bedroom, and they were fast asleep. So I went back to my bedroom and got back into bed, and I'm just lying there looking around, and then I realized that there were faces all over my room. Not really full body, but faces. And it scared me. I pulled the sheet up over my face. And the room I was in, I got the first sun in the morning. And as the sun was coming up through my sheet, I could see like the shadow. They were like against my face. It was very, very frightening as a child. Very frightening. Yeah.
So were these... would you call them ghosts, or what were they?
What I've learned since, what we call ghosts are just our soul. I call them lower vibrational entities because we're all vibrational entities. And when you talk about energy, vibration, frequency, it's all a different name for the same thing. And these are souls that just got stuck here and didn't go into the light. So when you go into the light, you have a much higher vibration than the ones that are stuck here. And they were ones that are stuck here. It's very frightening. It happened when my abilities really fully opened up for me again about 12 years ago. They were just everywhere, and I didn't know what to do.
That would be a little disconcerting, wouldn't it? So what were the challenges of being a psychic as a child?
So I didn't realize anything was different for me for a long time than anybody else. When I went to school, I would know things were going to happen before they happened, and I would tell the kids in school, and then I started getting labeled a freak. So yeah, you shut down really quickly because kids are cruel. It's that simple. And I started developing lots of nervous habits and tics. I had a twitch in my eye. I would bite my nails. I would stutter. It was really, really tough as a child.
Was the nail biting and the twitching and the stuttering as a result of trying to clamp down on your gift?
It was not really knowing what the heck was going on, not being able to talk to anybody. Even as I got older, I thought everybody saw the entities that I saw. I didn't realize I was the only one seeing them.
So does this run in your family, June?
It does. Somewhere on my father's side, I haven't pinned it down because I didn't do his genealogy, but my mom, I found out, was also a medium. And when my mom didn't really raise me. My dad had kidnapped us when I was young.
Ooh.
Yeah. And when I started training, I spent 1.5 years trying to control these abilities. I ended up training at the same places she trained at 50 years earlier. They knew her and remembered her. She was still alive. Yeah.
Oh my. Did you ever get to reconnect with her then?
I did, absolutely. A little later in life. And I was with her when she died.
That's wonderful. So did you, when you reconnected, did you start getting some answers from her that brought light to your situation?
So my answers always have come from the other side. She never really did anything with her abilities. She tried, but she didn't really do anything. She didn't grow her abilities. And I remember when she was in the nursing home and dying, and she'd always known she was adopted, but she didn't know the whole story. And there was someone that kept coming to visit her in the nursing home, a spirit. So I showed up one day and I called on him, and we got the whole story. And the soul that was coming to visit her was her uncle, but it was really her dad. And she was born in the 20s, so it's a little confusing. His sister, which was her aunt, adopted her, and she knew her as her mother, not her aunt.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So did she, you say you talked to the person that was visiting with your mother. How did you do that? I mean, did it look like she just appeared in the room, or did you set your intent? How did it work?
Oh no, they just show up when I see souls and I'm talking to them. As soon as you call on them, they show up immediately. And I literally see them in 3D and have sometimes it's a telepathic conversation. Sometimes it's symbolic, because some of them haven't been able to slow their energy down enough to be able to have a full conversation. But most of them do. Otherwise, it's, a lot of it's symbolism and telepathy.
Metaphor. By telepathy, do you mean it's like you hear it in your mind's ear, but it might even be your normal mind's ear sounding voice?
Yes, exactly.
So you don't necessarily
it's their
hear a man's voice.
I'm not. Yes,
no,
I'm hearing their voice. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and even souls that don't speak English, they'll make it clear to me that they don't normally speak that language, but it translates over.
How does that work?
I have no idea.
One of life's little mysteries, yes?
Yes.
So you mentioned, have you had training to master your psychic abilities? What was your training you mentioned?
I have. So I spent about 1.5 years training with different mediums that had been professionally trained, learning how to turn it on, turn it off, what the hierarchy is, who I'm speaking to on the other side, how to recognize energies. And then my training took over from the other side, and, guides, masters, they've all taught me. They're always constantly teaching me everything.
I know every shaman I've ever talked to said the same thing. Well, my original teacher helped me get there, but then that's when I met my teachers. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I understand you had an NED, near-death experience. How did you die?
So it's funny, I never considered it to be an NDE because I died. It wasn't near death. For me, I died and I knew I died. But I've learned that they lump them all in together. So if something's going to happen in your life, like a car accident, your soul jumps out to protect you, because your soul takes with you everything on the other side, all your feelings and all your knowledge. So for me, I had injured my back when I was 22 years old, and they wanted to do back surgery. And I put it off as long as I could, because I knew if I had the surgery, I was going to die. I just knew it. And when you have that knowing, that's literally your soul giving you a heads up. So I put it off for 5 years until I was told I had no choice. If I wanted to have any more children, I had to have the surgery. And I let my husband and my mother-in-law know the night before I went in that, listen, I'm going to die. And they're like, yo, you're going to be fine. You're just scared. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I know I'm going to die. I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to die. And sure enough, the night before the surgery, I had an MRI with a contrast dye to show the damage. And I let them know before they did it. I said, I think I'm allergic to this. I said, I had it once before. I had a really bad reaction to it. I couldn't get off the table for hours. And they're like, yeah, fine. Everybody has that reaction. And what do I know, right? I'm 27. I'm not the doctor.
It was the iodine you were
It was the iodine contrast dye that I was allergic to. And as soon as they administered it, I literally died. And, I've done a lot of research on NDEs for a TED Talk that I was planning. And everybody's experience is a little bit different, but they're all very similar. And for me, I was immediately just taken over to the other side into the light. And it was incredible because I could still see everything happening below me. I could see the doctor go over to me on the bed. I could see him hit the crash cart and the nurses coming in. I could see the nurses in the hallway talking about it. I could even see what was happening in the room behind me. But my attention was immediately taken to this big movie that started to play out in front of me, which I've now since learned was my life review. And it was like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater. And again, they're all a little different, but for me, they were putting on all of the things that had happened in my life that were very important to me. The people that helped me, the times that were really happy. That's what was playing out. And in the meantime, being there was just so incredible and amazing. I couldn't even talk about it for years. The feeling that you have without this body, it's weightless. There's no pain. There's just, I had an overwhelming feeling of the deepest love ever. And it's just not, there's no words to even describe it. It was just so overwhelming. And I'm watching this movie and I'm saying to myself, I'm not going back for my family. I'm not going to go back for my husband. I'm not going to go back for my friends. Why would I go back? There's no reason that I'd want to come back. And interestingly enough, they did not have my children in my life movie. And I suddenly remembered I have 2 young children here. And they are the biggest reason that I came here this time. And they're what brings me the most joy in my life. And as soon as I decided I was coming back for them, I was back in my body in a nanosecond.
I've heard a lot of different near-death experiences, but from what you're explaining to me, that it wasn't a near-death, it was a death, okay, that you were actually on the other side in the light. Does that change your perspective on life and death when you come back? Do you have a whole different attitude about it?
To be honest with you, when something that so far out of your norm happens, it takes time to process it. And it took me a long time. I wasn't afraid to die after that. Absolutely
Right.
not. I was not afraid to die. I knew there was a heaven. I've always known there was a higher power, but to be there physically, knowing that it's real, it took a long time to process it. It really, really did.
I can imagine. How would you say that your attitude towards life has changed now that you've processed it?
So I understand that we're all here for a reason. I also understand we're nothing more than actors in a play. I don't take anything seriously anymore in life as far as, what anybody thinks, what anybody says. It's nothing, none of that really matters. This is really just a blip in our existence. We're here for a reason. Some of us have different, more important reasons maybe than other people. Other people are here maybe for more of a little bit of a vacation and a break. But we're all here because we chose to be here. We're all here for our own plan. And we're all here to help each other. That's what a lot of people forget. We really are here to help each other.
That's hugely important. Well, it's time for us to take a commercial break. June and I will return very shortly, so don't you go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. We're coming to you on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. What would you do if you suddenly started hearing dead people? With us this hour discussing mediumship is June Edward, the author of All is Fair in Love and Karma. June, you mentioned that you were psychic and you described your experience as a child, which sounded a bit like a medium. Did you find that your mediumship abilities blossomed further after after you died, basically?
So you would think that that would be the case. However, everybody has the ability, but what blocks it is our brain. We all have a brain while we're here, and Other than being a computer that's processing all of our information, your brain has a very specific job. Your brain's job is to protect you. How does it do that? It does it by creating fear. And that's what stops people's abilities. And it's what was stopping my ability, because I was afraid. I got more interested after I died, and I started dragging my ex-husband on haunted vacations everywhere. And my abilities started to open up again. I was able to see energy again. But I still had some fear, to be honest with you, about really confronting these entities, because I was so scared when I was a child.
So you had PTSD basically, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So when you see entities now, do they appear to you like you see them with your eyes in the room, or is it a knowing, or how does it register for you?
So sometimes I know that they're around or coming because I can feel the energy. Otherwise, I see full body apparitions. I was in the grocery store one morning, and I've been trained to turn it on and off like a light switch. So if I'm not working, I'm not going to engage with them. So I'm grocery shopping. I go by the front door, and there's a guy at the door, very disheveled, looked like a homeless person. And I was walking by, but then I gave him a second look. And when I gave him a second look, he noticed me, that I noticed him. And he's like, "You can see me." And I'm like, oh, damn.
Here we go.
Like, yeah, I can see you, but I'm not working right now. He goes, "You need to talk to me." I said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not working right now." And he picked up, there was a hot dog and hamburger display there. He picked up a package of the rolls and he threw it at me. And it only went maybe 3 feet, but the poor woman at the register saw it. And she's like, "Oh my God, did you see those rolls? Did you see what happened?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm just laughing and kept walking.
So that's pretty unusual, though, isn't it? Where the entity can have physical effect in the world.
No, their energy. So it's all a matter of them learning how to control their energy. It's the same with us. We have those abilities to throw our energy and move things. If people want to sit there with a candle in front of them, they can make the candle flame flicker. Some of them can make the candle go out. These were one of the first things I tried when I was starting to train.
Pretty fascinating. So there's so much more than meets the eye, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely.
So ultimately, how did your experience with death impact your gift overall?
So I think what happened was it speeded up the frequency of my soul, because, we live in the 3D world here, and our frequency as humans is somewhere between the 400 and 500 range, which is kind of low. And if you think of the speed of light, what is it? 150 million miles a second or something. I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy speed. But when you go into the light, that's the speed that your soul is moving. And, I recommend that people meditate, because when you meditate, you're getting out of your head and you're connecting with your soul. And your soul is way too big for your body. So some of it's in your body, some of it is over your head that people can see, and they call it an aura. And the largest portion of your soul is actually in the lowest level of heaven. And it's actually directing the timing of the events in your life. And it has all the knowledge of all your lifetimes. So when you're connecting to it, you're getting all that information.
So is that the part of yourself that we would call our higher self?
Yes, absolutely. You can call that your higher self. Yeah.
Now, when a person goes through life, we take bumps and bruises and we get compromises to our frequency. And I understand there's a frequency below which you can't maintain life. Do you believe that the life review is stepping back through that process?
No, not necessarily. And I don't know that everyone gets a life review either. It may be just a tool for some of us that have written an out into our life as to whether or not we're going to take that out or come back. There's many people that have had an NDE that actually died and did not get a life review. They've been told point blank that it's not their time. You've got to go back, and boom, they come back.
So it's like you had more of a choice, it sounds like.
So we write our life plan before we come here. And I was told
So that's the one that did it.
Well, yeah, it's our own fault. So I was told it was an exit that I wrote in that I could have taken if I wanted to.
You say that we're here to learn lessons. What are those lessons?
So in order for your soul to advance on the other side, you have to learn, everyone has to learn the same 5 lessons. And the first one is self-worth. And self-worth is not value, because that's what other people place on you. Self-worth is the knowing that you are so important, that you're the only one of you in this whole universe. How special is that? And it's not, you're not narcissistic or selfish by putting yourself first. It's where everything else comes from. If you don't put yourself first, you're not going to be here to help anybody else, are you? That's how it works. So it all starts with self-worth. No one can make you happy either. No one can make you anything. No one can make you mad. I can't make somebody love me. We're all responsible for ourselves. Only we can make ourselves happy. And then that vibration rises, and then our happiness ping-pongs off of other people.
So by accepting the fact that, the buck stops here, does that have us stepping out of victim, which is kind of a low frequency, into proactiveness?
It should, absolutely. It should change your whole outlook on life, but it also helps to change your vibration and raise your vibration, because now you don't take things personally either. And you understand that things aren't happening to you. They're happening for you, always happening for your highest and best.
If you take advantage of them, yes?
Right. Sure. And then you have trust and communication, and you have to trust that there is a higher power. You have to trust that you made this plan, and you have to be able to communicate your wants and needs to other people, because we don't know by osmosis, right? And then sex is just another form of trust and communication. If you can't do that outside the bedroom, you're not going to be able to do it inside the bedroom. Then you have unconditional love, which is very difficult for people. They'll have a nasty divorce and they'll hate that person the rest of their life. Well, you have to look at why it happened. What lesson were you supposed to be learning or teaching, and what good came out of it? Maybe you have 3 wonderful children because of it. Then,
That makes sense. So, I was going to ask you, who decides what lessons we learn? But obviously you said we're the ones that write those lessons.
Right.
What are they based on? And do we travel into different lifetimes with the same lesson, or do we get a new one each time?
So my understanding is that these are the same 5 lessons from lifetime to lifetime, that your soul has to learn these lessons in order to advance. And by advancing, so I can go back and forth to the 5th dimension, the lowest level of heaven. That's where I went when I died. That's where the Akashic records are kept. But there's different levels. They described it to me like a layer cake. And you go to that level of heaven based on your belief system and how advanced your soul is. So when my mom died, there was an angel in the room, and when she died, I got to see her soul leave her body, and her mom and her dad and her adopted mom, everybody was there with the angel to take her to the advanced realms. So I asked the angel in the middle of the night what his name was, and he told me Makael, because they were always teaching me. So I looked up Makael, because there's so many angels, and it said it was the angel that takes souls to the advanced realms. Okay. So 6 months later or so, it hit me. I got to look up Makael again. So I look up Makael. Makael is Archangel Michael. And had he told me his name was Archangel Michael, I would not have known that he's also taking souls to advanced realms. I wouldn't have known that there are advanced realms. So they're always teaching me from the other side.
So what's the difference between an angel and a ghost, a disembodied spirit that's getting ready to cross?
So a ghost is just a soul that doesn't have a body. An angel is a completely separate race. They were never human. Completely separate race. Their entire existence is to help us. But if we don't ask, they can't help. That's their rule. There's rules on the other side, just as there are rules here. So you have to ask the angels for help if you want it. If you want protection from Archangel Michael, you just ask him, and it's there.
It's kind of amazing to me. We stagger through life feeling alone and victimized, and help is just a question away.
It's not even a question away. It's there all the time around you. Everyone has a guardian angel, which is not an angel at all. It's actually a soul that is somehow connected to you through all of your lifetimes. And they're there to protect you and watch over you. You don't have to ask. If something ever happened in your life, like maybe you were driving your car and you skidded on ice and you swear that something took the wheel and saved you, that was your guardian angel doing that. They step in when they're needed. So you're always protected, and everyone on the other side wants you to succeed here, and you just have to know that. They always want what's best for you.
So let's back up just a little bit to you said that some of the higher realm can't speak in our common language. They have to use symbols or metaphors. How do you have to, is it something you have to learn to be able to interpret those metaphors accurately when you're
It
receiving them?
is. So they taught me an entire list of symbols that mean things. So for instance, if I see a pocket protector on one of the spirits coming through, I know they were either an engineer or they felt that they were a geek and didn't fit in life. So I would have to ask the person that knows them, because I don't know them. Was he an engineer, or did he just feel like he was a geek and he didn't fit in life? There are some things that I don't have a symbol for, like if they show me a white Cadillac, that means nothing to me. I would have to ask the person, did they drive one? Did they sell them? Do you drive one? Did they get hit by one? In order to understand where they're going with what it is they want to say.
And so you're seeing these symbols on the spirits that are presenting themselves to you to give information to people that are here.
Correct. Yeah. So they can recognize it and know that it is the loved one that they're asking to talk to. Because realistically, you don't have a body. They can come through any way they want. And I don't know them.
Do they tend to present at the age they were when they died, or the age that they were their healthiest?
Not necessarily. So they'll either come through what they look like prior to passing, or the age that was the best time in their life here. Mm-hmm. So for instance, my mom died at 93. And she comes through all the time as a 19-year-old messenger girl on roller skates, because that's what she did when she was 19 in Chicago.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So do you believe we reincarnate?
Many, 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 many times.
Let me count the times, huh?
But it's our choice. If you don't want to reincarnate, you don't have to, but it's kind of mini vacation. And when you're on the other side, time is very different. It's very slow on the other side. The faster you move, the slower time is. And because they're moving so quickly, time's very slow. It's about 3.5 to 4 of our years. 3.5 to 4 years of their time for 1 year on our time.
Is it different depending on the level that you're at?
No, it has to do with the speed that they're traveling.
Okay, so it's not their frequency, it's the speed that they're traveling?
Well, frequency is speed. It's the same thing. Frequency, speed, it's all the same thing. Yeah, but that's what determines time.
And what I'm trying to put together, and we'll have to do it on the other side of a station break, is, okay, so you talked about different levels. What does that look like for the time, the speed? How does that go together? So I'll ask you that question on the other side of a commercial break. June and I will be right back to continue this discussion. So stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Are we here to learn lessons? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us discussing life's lessons is June Edward. Her website, juneedward.com. June, we were talking about lessons and frequency and all that fun stuff. And what we took into the last break was, you said that there are different levels that people go to. And when they go to a higher level, they really don't have language anymore. They communicate in symbols. If the higher level isn't higher frequency and moving faster than the level below it, what is it?
So the levels just have to do with how advanced your soul is. If you've learned all your lessons, your soul is much more advanced. Everyone's met a small child and they're like, oh, he's an old soul, right? They know he's reincarnated many, many times. He's got a lot of wisdom. He's got a lot of inner age with him. But your level has nothing to do with whether or not they're able to communicate with me by speaking or just symbolism. That just has to do with whether or not they've been able to master slowing themselves down enough to be able to do that. And even when they've been able to slow their energy and slow their speed down enough to literally talk to me instead of using symbols, most of the time they talk so fast, I just let them talk through me because it's faster than repeating it. And I did misspoke. It is, it's 3.5 to 4 years of our time for a year on the other side.
And that's consistent.
Yeah. 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 So we come back as a little mini vacation because on the other side, you don't have a body. You're bored, you know?
So does how well we learn our lessons in one lifetime impact the lessons we receive for the next?
I believe it does. I believe so. I had a sister that passed very horribly about 10 years ago, and she suffered a lot. And when I asked her why she wrote that plan to suffer that much in this lifetime, I mean, she was Hindu. She went to India many times to help over there. She ran a soup kitchen in Venice Beach, California. She owned nothing. She was far from a materialistic person. And she told me she's on the path to be an ascended master, which is a teacher on the other side for us. And she has to suffer everything there is to suffer here to be able to help everyone here that she can. If you haven't walked in those shoes, how can you counsel someone? Yeah.
So if the angels have never been incarnate, how can they counsel us then?
They don't really counsel you. They just help you. They're not counseling you. Ascended masters and guides are counseling you. And those are souls that have been here before.
Gotcha. So you mentioned you have a 100% success rate bringing through souls from the other side. How do you calculate that success?
So everybody that somebody asks for, I can bring them through. There's only really been one little girl, I guess, I couldn't bring through, and that's because she was a 10-year-old murder victim, and her family wanted to talk with her, and I could not bring her through. And so family from the other side came through to let me know that she had reincarnated almost immediately. And so she is in another body here. That's why I couldn't bring her through.
If time is not, why would that matter?
I'm sorry?
Well, we say there really is no such thing as time. And you were talking about how time is different at very least. But can't you just tap into when she was there versus now that she's reincarnated?
Never tried that. I don't know. You have one soul, so I think your soul would have to be split between those, what do they call them? The different years, basically, you know. I don't think your soul splits up that way in order to be in different dimensions at one time. That would have to be a different dimension.
But when we think of unity consciousness, that would open it all up for us, wouldn't it?
It would. I've never had it. I don't know. You know, I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. I mean, I've had some freaky stuff happen. I've sat in my dining room once, and the house was built in the early 1600s, late 1600s, and watched a whole family eat dinner in the other room at an old wooden table for probably 30 seconds. And they saw me. They looked at me. They saw me. So, yeah, that's an interdimensional time, but I don't know how all of that works. All I know is she wasn't on the other side. She wasn't in heaven, and her soul had reincarnated. And that's what they told me. And that's why I wasn't able to bring her through.
And that limitation could have been simply because you didn't know how to jump the time at the time.
True. I mean, I've jumped time a couple of times. I've, flown, astral projected over Europe in the 1600s. And I brought a woman through, someone's mom, who was telling me that she was going back in time to all the historical things that they used to teach in school, like the pyramids and things like that. And the guy's laughing. He's like, well, she was a history teacher. It makes sense that she'd be doing that. But that's one of the first ones that has told me that she's going back in time like that on the other side.
So by rights, could she also choose to go back and reincarnate at a prior time?
I don't know. It's a real interesting question. I might have to try to ask and see if I get an answer to that one. That's an interesting concept.
Let me know what you come up with.
Yeah.
You say you're working directly with angels, guides, and departed souls. Where and how do you find your helpers?
You just ask. and they show up. I don't always know who they are. In fact, when I wrote my first book, I was working on my autobiography, and I kept hearing, "You need to write the book. You need to write the book." And I'm like, "I'm writing the book." And they're like, "No, no, no. You need to write another book so all your students have something as a guide." And I'm like, "Well, if you want me to do that, then somebody from the other side is going to have to help me channel this, because I have no time. I'm taking care of my mom dying. So literally, I don't know who it was from the other side. I asked for the highest of guides to help me write it, and wrote it and published it in 6 weeks with whoever's help it was on the other side. I never asked.
Well, as far as spirits go, we have fallen angels, yes. How do you know that who you're talking to actually has your best interest at heart, is actually bringing through something needed and of value rather than being mischievous and doing things that are not so good?
So this is where you have to learn how energy works, because again, we're in a 400 to 500 frequency here. Anything that's gone into the light is a much higher frequency. A ghost that is stuck here is the same frequency as we are. In fact, I've worked on a missing person case. I couldn't tell if they're dead or not unless they've gone into the light, because it's the same frequency. And if they don't want me to know, then I'm not going to know. But anything that is evil or demonic, it's a much lower frequency. You get that pit in your stomach as soon as you get anywhere near their energy. It's horrible.
Is there such a thing as too high a frequency, too imbalanced on the other side?
Don't know of any too high of a frequency. I don't know.
Well, we think of everything has to be balanced rather than just, higher and higher or lower and lower. It has to be balanced in
Well, I
there
would say the
somewhere.
highest would be God and the lowest would be a demon or the devil. So I guess, everything else in between.
Okay. How can you tell that angel guides and departed souls you're working with are the ones that have the information that you need? Does it just automatically happen when and do you have to even have stated what you're looking for, or can you just have been thinking about it, been intending it, or it's your next step? Do they know before you do?
So whether you speak something out loud or whether you think it, it's all the same. Okay, it's energy. And yes, they can hear those thoughts and read those thoughts because that's the intention you're putting out there. So sometimes they know in advance and things will happen. And it's like, oh, wow. Otherwise, I ask. So it's interesting. Whenever my faith is faltering, St. Anthony likes to play with me, and one of my diamond earrings will go missing. And I'll be frantic looking for this thing, right? And I just sit down and have to ask. And within minutes to hours, I find it in the most bizarre place.
So it's like, okay, so what'd you do with it this time?
Yeah, pretty much.
When you're working with spirits from the other side, and you said you had to learn how to turn it off and on, and I can imagine that you'd be nagged to death otherwise. How do you do that? How do you turn it off and on?
So we all have what's called a gatekeeper on the other side, and that is a soul that literally helps you with your mediumship. So the first time I ever did it, I was sitting at first time I ever did a big audience. There was probably 150, 200 people sitting there. And I almost started to panic. I'm like, oh my God, what happens if nobody comes through? And I've only seen my gatekeeper a couple of times. He's always right here. He's always beside me, but he's only spoken to me a couple of times, and I've only seen him a couple of times. He's an Indian brave. And he sat there and said, I'll do my job and you do your job. And he has never failed me. But he will line the souls up from the other side. Because you're always in charge. That's what's important. No one can come through to you unless you want them to, but you have to give that direction. So he knows that no one's allowed to come through to me if I'm not working unless it's an emergency. And that's only happened a couple of times that I've had spirits come through as an emergency.
So that was the next question I was going to ask. If a spirit like the homeless one that threw the bread at you, if they come through because they have a message they really want to get through to somebody, but you don't even know the somebody, but maybe they can point to somebody out. How do you do that? Well,
I don't
excuse
work
me,
that
but
way.
I've got a disembodied spirit here.
I don't, yeah, I don't work that way. I don't,
That's
because
without permission, right?
I'll spend the rest of my life trying to figure out who it is and who the message is for. Even someone that wants a reading from me, you have to be specific who you want to talk to, because there'll be a crowd of 1,000 people, souls around me, that all want to come through, and they don't all have a message for you. They just know that if I mess up and say, okay, who wants to come through, boom, and
There's their chance.
there'll be 20 minutes trying to figure out who the person is. They won't have a clue, and in the end they'll figure it out, but the message isn't even for them. Maybe it's their next door neighbor's mother that passed and wants to get a message to her, and that's what happened before. So it's like, I don't do that.
I've had people report to me that there's symbols that they feel have been sent by their loved ones that have just crossed. Like her father loved bluebirds, and right after he crossed, she's sitting out in her yard just crying, and I hope Dad's okay. I need a sign he's okay. And here comes a bluebird.
Absolutely.
Do you see a lot of that, and how does that work?
So they're always trying to give you messages and information and symbols and signs. It's a matter of paying attention, because they're all around us all the time. So my mom sends a red-shouldered hawk to my older sister. And for the longest time, my older sister was like, oh yeah, it's mom. Mom's the hawk. I'm like, no, mom is not the hawk. Mom is just sending it to you so you know that she's around and she's thinking about you. She's not the hawk.
How do they influence wildlife like that?
They're all spirits. They all have souls, even wildlife. When I was writing my first book, everybody kept asking me if we can reincarnate as animals and plants. And I'm like, I don't know. Let me ask. So I went back and I didn't get an answer. So I'm like, okay. I had a dog at the time that was my son's originally. He got it when he was in the military. He found it in a box on the Mexican-Texas border. And he had it for 4 years, and then he gave him to me. And this dog still makes me cry. I loved this dog. Never loved a dog so much in my life. So I went back in my Akashic record, which is my book of past lives, to see where this dog had been in my past life. And sure enough, he had been a man in a past life. And my son that was in the military had been my father in that lifetime. And we saved this man's life. He came back as a dog in this lifetime, 4 years to protect my son and 4 years to protect me when I needed him. And
Beautiful.
then he got cancer and had to be put down. But,
Well, it's time for another station break, and I'm sorry he had to be put down.
Yeah.
But please stay with us. June and I will continue to explore messages from the other side. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Is it a spirit, or are you hearing voices? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with June Edward. Her website, juneedward.com. So, June, you had your experiences of seeing things that supposedly aren't there according to most of our perceptions. What do you have to say for people if they're wondering if they're kind of seeing things out of the side of their eye or right in front of their face or hearing things? How can they tell if maybe they need to visit a psychiatrist or if maybe they're psychic?
So, first of all, people aren't as crazy as we would all like people to think. Everyone is born with psychic ability and mediumship ability. And again, we have a brain in our head creating fear, and that stops a lot of people. Even my own family, my older sister, my own kids are very psychic, but they're kind of afraid of it, and they're afraid of a stigmatization from people, so they don't talk about it. My youngest one has the same abilities that I do, and sometimes he walks in my house before I see it, and he's like, Mom, got somebody here. So, don't dismiss it. Don't think you're crazy. your loved ones from the other side are always trying to get in touch with you. It's like a two-way mirror, and they're banging on the glass saying, I'm here, can't you see me? Because they can hear you, they can see you, they can even touch you, and if they can slow their energy down enough, they can move objects in your house and play with things. But they want you to know they're there and they're around you. As soon as you talk about them or think about them, they show up immediately. And if you're stuck in grief, they're stuck in grief with you. That's how it works.
So it sounds like we have no privacy whatsoever.
Again, you're here in a 3D world, and if you want to live a life of a prude, they don't care. They could care less if you're nude in the bathroom. They don't care. The big joke was I had somebody show up when I was in the shower, and that was one of the emergency spirits that my guide let through. And literally, I was in the shower, and it happened to have been a friend of mine that had passed about a year earlier. And she was panicked because she wanted me to go get in touch with her husband because she thought he was going to commit suicide. And she was absolutely right.
So that's the case where you did indeed, without permission from the husband, bring through information?
I didn't bring it through. She came to me.
I know, but what I'm saying is...
I don't have to ask permission.
Or you don't?
No, she came to me. It's the same thing if my girlfriend knocked at the door. I don't have to ask her husband if she can come over.
So if a disembodied spirit comes to you and says, I want to tell your neighbor that I want to talk to them, do you go over and knock on the neighbor's door and say, hey, your friend that's crossed wants to talk to you?
No, not with people that I don't know. If there's somebody I don't know, that's rather unethical. Her husband was a friend of mine, so I went to his house and I called him up first, and I was going away that weekend. So I told him I can't get there till Monday morning. I'll be there Monday morning for coffee. And when I got there, I sat down and I said, Peggy came to see me this weekend, and she told me you were going to try to kill yourself. And he broke down in tears. He goes, yeah, she went to see my brother too. He goes, I don't know why I'm here anymore.
Oh, bless his heart.
It's terrible.
So you just kind of go with, if you feel that you have that kind of a relationship with a person?
Yeah, they'll come and visit. Your friends will come and visit all the time. The next one that came through as an emergency was another friend of mine. It was a high school friend. We weren't overly close, but we were kind of close. And her fiance died in the ICU, and she didn't know. And he came to me. And I couldn't call and tell her that. I had to wait until, she found out through regular channels. And I knew she was in no shape to know at that point. So when I saw her at the funeral, I said, listen, I said, when you're ready, you know what I do. I said, when you're ready to talk, you let me know. And it took her about a year. But finally, she came to me after about a year, and I explained what happened. And since then, I taught her how to talk with him and how to recognize the signs, and he's around her all the time.
I've had quite a few friends that their loved ones just stay with them. They have these ongoing conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you charge for your services?
I do, absolutely.
Okay.
There has to be an equal exchange of energy. If you're not paying someone for something, then don't expect to get what you're expecting to get.
So how does that work? I call you up or email you on your website and say, hey, I want your services. And
everything's online on my website. They can book all the services on there.
So do you see people in person, or do you do this work long distance?
Well, I live in Florida, and quite honestly, I have clients all over the world at this point.
So you do it long distance as well.
So usually I'll work on Zoom, but if someone wants to come see me in person in Florida, that's fine.
If you're working, do you need to see the other person, the one that you're working for, like you do on Zoom, or can you just do it on a telephone? Or
yeah, it's energy. It's all energy. Mm-hmm. So it's just like how clairvoyance can see things somewhere else. It's because you're projecting your soul energetically somewhere else to be able to see those things.
And I understand when you're doing that, the difficulty is knowing where you are, but not necessarily when you are. So then again, we're dealing with time.
Yeah. Again, I haven't time traveled that often. I've only done it once or twice, and I've seen different dimensions a couple of times, but I haven't personally time traveled that often. So I pretty much know where I am and when I am.
that can be useful with what you're doing because other people don't think about being outside of time and space, right?
Right.
So we're at that place in the show, and I get to ask you, June, what's your mission?
My mission is to help the people that are stuck here and don't understand why they're here and end up unhappy and in despair, which is a shame. You're only here for a very short period of time. You're here to enjoy this life. You really are. So to help put people back on their path and to help them not be afraid of the other side too. I donate my time to a nonprofit called NODA, No One Dies Alone, and it's a worldwide um, thing that people can do. And I sit with people that are dying that don't have any family so that they don't die alone. And I can talk with them even though they're not verbal at that point, or they may be in a coma. And I can converse with them and explain to them, that they need to let go and go to heaven and who's with us in the room and things like that. It's wonderful.
So when you're doing that work, June, you're stewarding them from being alive in the body to leaving the body.
Correct.
And that's a death doula's job. And from there, then it would be psychopump work if they leave the body, but then they get stuck. They're afraid to move further. Do you do that as well?
Well, that's why I'm happy to be there when they're passing, because I can explain it to them, bring in whoever it is they need to be with that makes them comfortable to pass to the other side. And I know they go into the light and they're not stuck. Yeah, I've moved lots of people into the light that are stuck here. There's so many people here. It's crazy. Yeah.
So you don't necessarily personally take them to the light, but you call helpers and relatives that can then take them to the light.
So when someone is dying and they're that close to death, all of their family is there. Archangel Michael is there to help them go to the other side. I had a gentleman a couple weeks ago who was adamant that he wasn't leaving until he saw Jesus. And I was playing him some church music and things to make his passing a little easier. So we called on Jesus and he took him with him. So then he went right away, which I was grateful for. But it's interesting. Even my dad, who died at 93 as well, he died the same age and the same day, a year apart from my mom. He wanted to know a little bit about what I do. I'm like, okay, what do you want to know? He goes, well, I want to know why I see my mother here standing next to my bed every morning when I wake up. I said, well, she's going to help you transition and go to the other side when it's time. Well, that's not what I want to know. He said, I want to know why, she's there for, a few seconds and then she disappears. I said, Dad, she didn't disappear. She's still standing here right next to me. But your brain is kicking in and saying, oh, I can't believe it. It can't be real. And this is what happens. So you got to get out of your brain.
So when you're in the presence of someone that's getting ready to die, you are aware of all the ones that have come to escort them?
Yes, absolutely.
But they aren't necessarily.
They are. They see them. Oh, absolutely. But sometimes they're a little confused and they're like, am I really seeing this? What's happening? I don't want to go. So I try to explain that to them, that they don't want to stay in this body. This body is broken. It's no good. Your life is, you had your fun. And now when you go to the other side, you can be any age you want and experience anything you want and have a lot more fun.
When a person dies and then crosses, even if they had a little bit of rough time to get there and you help them cross, do they have the option of coming back in spirit to, like you're saying, relatives come to help people cross? So do they have the option, even though they've crossed through the light, to come back into this reality?
In seconds. So I was working on a missing person case once, and he did not want his family to know he was dead. He had not gone into the light. We're chasing him all around everywhere until they finally found his body. So I had his family come to my house, and we called on him, and we talked to him a little bit. And, I told him, I said, you really need to go into the light. You can't stay here. I said, you can come right back, but you've got to go into the light. And he did. He went into the light, and he came back immediately. So they can move a lot faster. It's a higher frequency. It's much different once they've gone into the light.
So once they go into the light, so if they, let me start this over again. If they die, but they haven't crossed, are they any more reliable source of information than when they were alive? They're just out of their body, right? So they're not necessarily reliable at that point as far as bringing teachings or telling you things?
No, they only have the knowledge for the most part of what they had while they were alive here. Absolutely. They have not contacted and gotten in touch with the rest of their soul that's on the other side. So they're really stuck. Yeah.
So, but then once they go to the other side, then when they come back, then do they have reliable knowledge to share?
They do. They have all the knowledge of all their lifetimes because they've gotten in touch with that part of their soul. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do they have knowledge from the other side as well?
It depends on how long they've been there for.
Okay. And it's a thing of frequency, yes?
I'm sorry?
It's a matter of frequency, yes?
Um, maybe some, maybe yes, maybe no, maybe I don't know.
I like
I
that
don't
answer.
know.
How do you see mediumship as helping us evolve as human beings?
So when you're in touch with your soul that's on the other side, you're really in touch with more of the love and the purpose for being here. And again, you look at things very differently. Some people live in the drama. Oh, this girl doesn't like me. Oh, she's going to beat me up. She's going to do this. Who cares? What other people think or what other people say, it's nobody's business. Your business is what you think and what you care about. You have to learn to put yourself first. It's a completely different life when you understand that you're really just an actor in a play here. You're here for a very short time. You're here to learn your lessons, teach your lessons, pay back your karmic debts, help the people that are around you, and enjoy the beauty of what's here.
That is a key, isn't it? To enjoy the beauty of what's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we're about to close out, do you have any final thoughts? They'd have to be quick.
So don't be afraid of mediumship and psychic ability. We're having a massive awakening right now around the world, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a much higher vibration. It's going to bring you more love and more light. And when you raise that vibration, you start bringing kind-like things into your life, because everyone that's in your life is on that same energetic thread. It's all about energy and frequency.
Well, we are out of time. June, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
June Edwards has been our guest. To find out more about June, where you can find her books and all she has to offer, visit her website, juneedwards.com. This has been Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org.